As you're coming in for the A game tonight, I don't give enough props to the band Love in Reverse for giving me the rights to use that song as my theme song. Thank you, Mike Ferrantino and the band, for doing that. John Faye was bopping in the background just like I was. And it's nice to have an old friend come back on here. This is, by the way, Game Score at Home. I think this is episode 96 of the A game. Can't believe we're in our third year. Yeah, it's crazy. We've come a long way, unbelievably. Because this man I've known, I'm going to embarrass both of us. It's been almost 30 years.
Almost, not
almost.
quite.
Just yeah, we're almost there. We're almost at that point.
Pretty darn close.
Yeah. John Faye, of course, is part of a band from the 90s called the Caulfields, who continue to do some music today as we speak. And John also has a project that he's very proud of. So we may talk a little less music, but we're going to talk about Christian photo number 3. This is the book, now available through your places where you would get books like, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I believe Target is one of the places too. The yin and the yang of it all. My good friend John Faye is here on the A game. And thank you so much. Third time back on this thing. You're a sucker for punishment.
Third time lucky, yes. Great to be here. Thank you for having me again.
Rob. Absolutely. For people who don't know, we've got a rich history, and where it all started was me being in radio, John being a part of the Caulfields. Christian, give me photo number 1, just to flashback a second. It all started right here. Yeah. Now, I don't think I ever asked you this question, John. You're pulling into HTG. You're promoting the album Whirligig. You see this house. What's your first reaction as you're pulling up the driveway?
I mean, my first reaction is it looks like a house in my old neighborhood. Did I take a wrong turn and end up in Newark, Delaware again?
And the funny thing was the bonding point with us, and I remember this vividly. We're in the studio, we're about to do the interview, but I had found in our local lick section the CD that you would put out before the Caulfield. So the B Clinic.
Oh, yeah.
And there's this young John. What were you, like 18 at that point?
I wasn't that much younger, dude. I mean, maybe like 5 years younger. Okay. I was probably like 20, 23, like 22 at the time.
I know we're about the same age, but the thing about it is you look like you didn't even shave in that photo, with the press photo that was on the CD cover. You know?
Oh, I shave all too much. That's the problem.
See, I learned something here. But that developed our friendship, and God love the Caulfields for all the things they did with WHGG, including being a part of our concert, Surf Stock. Matter of fact, just to flashback a memory, give me photo number 5 here, Christian. I mean, this is a great group photo of the band out on the beach. 5, there you go.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. We were all very young. We were all very naive, but we all had a great time.
Yeah, you can just see the naivete.
I think Sam's sitting there kind of going, "It's over? What?"
I'm like looking at that. Did I perform in that outfit? The double bubble shirt and the. Hey, it was the 90s, right?
Well, yeah, we were all dressed like it was the 90s. But here we are today, and I couldn't be more prouder of you for this book. And interesting, I found this video. This is from your first time on the podcast. Christian, if you scroll down, I'll tell you which one. But you were just starting right there, and I'll tell you when to hit it. You were talking about this, and I can't believe it. You were like my 6th guest. So thank you for coming on for a nobody at this point, trying to get his podcast career started.
It was awesome to be one of the early guests, an early adopter.
But this is the first time we're actually talking about the book. So Christian, hit this, and then we'll set up where we're at with the book. Let's go.
I started writing the book about, I'm going into my 3rd year of working on it, and it's a memoir. So it's got a lot to do with my childhood and my musical life. It's all kind of intertwined, but it basically, like the premise of it is how music basically gave me a voice in the world. Because, I grew up, growing up in Delaware in the 1970s as a mixed race kid had its challenges. Let's just put it that way.
No, it's being honest. Absolutely.
And so, the way that kind of music came into my life and provided me with this opportunity to kind of grow into myself is kind of like the overarching theme of the book. In addition to, tour stories about how, bad our tour managers' farts were and stuff,
Really explains perfectly why the title of the book is the yin and the yang of it all.
What an articulate young man talking there. I wouldn't change a thing even today in 2023.
Right, and that was what you were about 3 years into the book, because now
Right.
it's
So that
about
would have been like around. That probably happened in 2020.
yeah.
Because I look like my lockdown hair is happening there.
And there I am. I'm in lockdown. I'm not eating anything, and now all of a sudden it exploded again. But
Well, believe me, I had to go on the new map in 2021.
But looking at that summary, there
Mhm.
is really like 3 different sides of your life. And I apologize how this is going to come across, because I look at you, I go, this is my good friend John. He's one of the smartest people I know, one of the most passionate people I know as far as music. When I was working in Delaware at WSCW, hung out with him whenever I could. I've never looked at you as anything more as that's my friend John. So I don't know when
Mhm.
you were growing up in the 70s that you're being looked at differently because of your background.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was probably I was close to 7 years old when my dad passed away, and
Right.
then right the year after that, I think was the official end of the Vietnam War, and there was a lot of stuff just in the world like going down around
Right.
that time. And unfortunately for me, as a little kid, I was sort of the recipient of, some unpleasant stuff, which, but the thing about it is, and one of the reasons that the book is called The Yin and the Yang of it all is because, in looking back at my younger years in writing the book, um, I really found value in those negative experiences because those are the kinds of things that um, really, for better or worse, they pushed me into the world of music. I mean, initially music was an escape. It was something that I could just sort of hide myself in,
Mhm.
and then over time it became something that I decided I wanted to be part of. And so if that's the end result of going through some hard times and being the recipient of some harsh epithets or whatever,
Right.
then I don't wish it on anybody else, but I also for myself don't regret it because like that's what formed me you
Right.
know
Does it make it any easier going through that and knowing that in certain parts of the world, there were people who are looking at you like, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like that voice should come out of this person. I mean,
well
to say it that way, there are people who are kind of judging that way, which is unfortunate and sick, but
well look, I mean, to be honest, I still get that to this day.
real.
I mean, and that's the thing. And I obviously, when you hear something like that enough times, you become a little more thick-skinned about it. And I actually really am able to find humor in it. Like I don't like clutch my pearls or anything over that kind of thing. I mean, it's ignorance,
Yeah.
and if you're truly being a good human being, like you don't judge ignorance with malice, you judge it with sympathy or caring, and you just try your best not to be a jerk in correcting that person, or you know what I mean, like so a funny fairly recent incident similar to that. I do these for the past couple of years I've been involved with Shine a Light, which is a Delaware
Yeah.
benefit concert
Mhm.
that's for children's music education. And the first year I did it, I sang one of my songs was American Girl by Tom Petty.
Good choice.
And about 3 weeks after this performance, I was in a local bar watching another band's show, and a woman kind of like recognized me from across the room, like literally ran up to me and was like, "Oh my God, it's my Asian Tom Petty." And I was just like, "Hey,
Hey,
stop."
I got no words for that, but
Well, it's just some people like that's how they distinguish you from,
right.
they're Asian Steve Perry. I don't know.
That's a good comparable. I mean,
Whatever,
right.
But look, and one of the things that I've been kind of focused on lately, because I've actually been interviewed a few times by some like Asian American news websites and stuff about representation. And obviously, there's been some pretty major, if you'll call it, wins for Asian entertainers in the past year or two. A lot of it in the film world.
Yeah, the Oscars especially, absolutely.
I started writing the book about.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. But having that become just more and more of a normal occurrence, like that's the thing that's going to erode that attitude that like, well, this is just so incongruous. I can't imagine an Asian person, being a good singer or being able to act in a movie in a way that's believable or whatever. So it's literally like one victory at a time, and it just sort of becomes normal. And that's just how it's going to have to be.
Do you find the irony of the timing, though? Not that like you were planning on releasing the book with everything, like you said, when you talk about how the Oscars and the wins that went that way, and here it is. Now here's another Asian American person, and releasing this book, and telling great stories. Not that and I don't look at it that way. We're just talking about general public in a sense. Some of the public will see it that way.
Look, hopefully it's just part of these kinds of stories and people like myself just being part of the conversation in general. I certainly hope it's not like, well, you Asians had your 2 years in 2021, 22, 23, and now, like it's not, I don't look at it that way.
Good.
And I'm not, honestly, if it happens to be my turn just because of like, this is just the zeitgeist and the way the tides are rolling,
right?
Then great,
right?
I'm not going to turn it down.
Well said.
Yeah, it's been not my turn for 30 years. So
yeah, again, as one of the biggest champions of the Caulfields for 30 years, I'm like going, how is this band not bigger? It's like maybe.
So and believe me, it's still never even about that for me. Like I wrote this book because for the same reason I write songs, I had something inside me that needed to be not inside me. It needed to be expressed in a creative format. And this is just the way that the things I had to say needed to be done.
How does it feel?
It wasn't enough to like make what I had to say into like a 3-minute song. It couldn't be contained in that.
How does it feel now that it's out and you've got it published? Is there just this sense of like you can breathe again, that you let this all out and now it's
I thought that would be the feeling, but there's just so much involved with everything around the book. I mean, obviously, like having it, I think the moment that was really special for me, Rob, was getting a shipment of books like at my house. And I didn't know when they were coming. And I just walked up to my apartment one day and there were like, I'm looking at these boxes stacked against my wall right now. Right. There was like 15 boxes of books just sitting there. And it took me 10 minutes to lug them into my apartment. Wow. And then I literally did my first ever unboxing video and held it in my hand for the first time. And that was a very powerful moment because this was like a tangible thing that contained the 6 years that I put into this. So that was the moment where there was a bit of that feeling.
The book is now available through Amazon, through Barnes & Noble, through Target, the yin and the yang of it all. By the way, John has come up with some very creative marketing ways that he's doing on social media. As a matter of fact, Christian, if you go above orbit, I want to play this. This is something that's running on social media. So if you see it, you'll understand. Some really good work. It plays like a commercial, but it plays really well. Check this out right now.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that in 1995, your band has a song on the radio that says, "I'm bigger than Jesus and you're on tour in Louisiana, no less. And you hear a knock on the door to your dressing room, and standing before you is a former Grand Wizard of the KKK, and your life flashes before your eyes because you think he's there to kill you for your blasphemous bigger than Jesus song. But then he ends up asking you for an autograph instead?
All I could do, the minute I saw that on social media, I'm smiling. Christian seeing that for the first time, cracking up. But again, this is a true story, and then you just sitting there going, "You've got to be kidding me!"
No, well, I mean that's the thing. Like, one of the reasons that I wanted to tell, particularly like the story of the Caulfields, is that it was just like so weird. Like, everything we encountered was, the antithesis of what you think, like, a signed rock band is supposed to encounter on the road.
Right.
And, for better or worse, I find it like way more interesting than, oh yeah, and we sold out like 80 nights in a row and blah, blah, blah. Well, I was accosted by a Grand Wizard of the KKK, so
there you go.
love it.
These are the kind of stuff you're going to find in the book. But again, I like the dichotomy. You do get personal, you do get into your life, and then you talk about some of these weird things that happen as a signed artist who's touring the country, got to tour Australia, got to do all these things. And like I say, and by the way, props to, please let me know who did the production on and who created the idea of doing that kind of marketing.
On the videos, my friend Pat Taggart, who is actually, his main thing that he does is he does documentaries.
Oh, wow. That explains a lot.
Super talented. Like, he actually did my Orbit video. He was the director of that music video. And he's the one that came up with the concept of, hey, how about if we just have like a bunch of short clips?
Yeah.
Where it's like, you tell me, like, so you're telling me this happened. And like, he gave me the assignment, come up with like 5 things.
Right.
And these were designed to definitely be like on the more lighthearted end of my experiences.
Sure.
Like, because there was definitely stuff that's, there's stuff in the book that's way heavier. I mean, almost to the opposite extreme. So it was super fun to do those because we actually, I was house sitting at a friend's house who happens to have like a great house just full of like crazy knickknacks and stuff that makes it just visually really awesome. And so I was like, we've got a whole afternoon. We can just like shoot all of these here.
Brilliantly done. I got one more I want to put. Now, this one I'm taking off of TikTok, but you name check a 90s band. Christian, if you have it ready, it's Under the Countdown. John's already cracking up. I have seen this, but if you're familiar with the band that's being mentioned, get ready to be surprised here. Fire it up now.
So you're telling me that 5 minutes before singing in front of thousands of people at a radio station festival in Milwaukee, you suffer what is known in medical terms as a full-blown shart attack and have no choice but to dispose of your underwear in the dressing room designated for the band Sponge, prompting you to mutter under your breath, "Human wreckage, indeed?" Weirdo.
By the way, I think Christian wants to high five you.
You know what? It's things like that, like people ask me like, well, what do you, what's next? What do you want to do after you do the, like, I would love to become like successful enough to just do stuff like that. Just do the dumb ideas that I want to execute for the rest of my life. Like, that's literally like where my head is at, but like, I watch that and I'm like, I'm so proud of that moment.
Oh my God. I love it.
The more embarrassing to me, the better, like, yeah, I crap my pants.
There you go. It happened. And by the way, if you don't know the song by Sponge called Plowed, and the lyric I go, quote, "In a world of human wreckage."
Come on, Rob. Who doesn't know that song?
Yeah, I was about to say, you've been under a rock if you didn't hear Plowed. It was all over the radio. It was everywhere. But no, nice play on words there. It was well done.
Hey, look, well, that's the thing, as a band who was, basically contemporaries with all these bands that
Sure.
are, had these huge hit songs,
Right.
like all those phrases and those hooks that were always in our heads because, we're going into a certain town, and what does a band do when they get to a town where the radio station is playing their song? They tune into the radio station hoping to hear their song.
Right.
But instead, they hear Sponge 5 times an hour.
But you in certain parts of this country, this, and we've talked about this before. You would go down to Atlanta, and the kids would definitely be singing along on "Bigger Than Jesus."
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were definitely pockets of the United States and Canada and all over that where we were that band that was on 5 times an hour for a while, But the thing about our single "Devil's Diary" is that it was inherently a double-edged sword because of the blasphemous content, So, that's why you would go to some towns and it was like fully embraced because of what it was.
Right.
And then it would be completely ignored or worse because of what it was in other places. So, but that's the yin and the yang of it all.
Yeah.
This all ties in at all times.
It really, look, to your credit, it is the perfect title. It really, really is. Knowing your life that I do, knowing what I'm discovering just from checking up on the book, I'm sitting there going, this is the only title he could have done, because it really is going to take you on this ride of, my life has been at times difficult, at times sad, but at times beautiful, at times adventurous, and it all ties together. And that's one of the reasons why getting this book, you'll be thoroughly entertained. You'll be probably pleasantly shocked in a few places, I'm sure.
I mean, hopefully not unpleasantly shocked.
Yeah, well,
that could also happen.
That's true, but we let the cat out of the bag about Sponge and basically shitting his pants. So, I mean,
Well, there you go.
Christian, let me have the photo of the book again, number 3, just so I can put it out there. You can order this right now through Amazon, through Barnes & Noble. By the way, if you're ordering this through Amazon, please leave a review for John. If you're enjoying the book, that always helps. Real quick, John Kim Faye. Why putting Kim in your name for this? I like the JKF handle, by the way, too.
Well, one of the reasons that I put it just for a very kind of like, dumb reason. It just sounds more authory.
Honest.
And I also, I wanted to present my full self, because that is essentially one of the goals I had with the book. Was it's a story about me coming to a full acceptance of who I am. And growing up mixed race, being half Korean and half Irish, I never really felt accepted by either side of that, nor did I feel a part of either side of that.
Right.
So I was kind of like an island unto myself, like I use the phrase that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar uses about himself, called a minority of one.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine how lonely that has to feel at times.
Well, it certainly felt lonely at that young age when your father passes away. And I'll say this, my concept of family was extremely limited at that time, because when, I literally didn't meet anyone related to my father at the time. And I met maybe, so of my 4 grandparents, I only met my maternal grandmother once.
Wow.
So, I mean, most kids, that we are acquainted with, or just about anybody, like, they'll have experiences and memories with their grandparents and even aunts and uncles and cousins. And I literally had none of that.
Ouch.
So it was just me, my mom, and my 3 older half sisters from my mom's first marriage, who were wonderful to me, but they're all like a decade or more older than I am.
Right.
So it wasn't like a sibling experience. It was like, they were taking care of this baby,
Well, let me ask you, as an adult, how has that affected you as a parent today? Because you got kids. You're a doting father. I see that on social media. So,
well, you know, I think that it definitely impacted me in the sense that I'm hell bent on never allowing them to feel like they don't have me. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yes.
as long as I am alive, and you being familiar with like my musical output over the years, you know, I've
Yes.
written songs inspired by my kids.
Yes.
And you know, the one song that Ike had, "Welcome Home," was written after my daughter was born, and
Right.
it's "You'll never have to worry about me loving you as long as I'm around," and I really meant that line, you know, from a very deep place, because you know, it's weird when you become conscious of mortality at such a young age.
Yeah.
You know,
That's not the sorry, that's not the norm. That really
no,
is
it's not. It's as Chris Farley once said, "It's not the norm."
norm.
And yeah, and so I think that just the way that my brain became kind of wired after that sort of cataclysmic event as a
Right.
6-year-old, it put me on a path that was just very different from other kids that age.
Right.
And so as a parent, I absolutely am very conscious of, you know, what my role and relationship is with them, you know, and their mother and I have been divorced since 2009, but we're still very tight because our goal above all else is to be good parents to those kids.
Amen.
And they're adults technically now, but the job never ends.
No. Anybody who's a parent knows that. Hey, you could be 42. I'm still your mother, I'm still your father, and I'm still gonna worry. Period.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for elaborating on that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
The yin and the yang of it all. He is the author. He's also a musician. He's also a professor at Drexel University. That is John Faye here.
I do have to mention that I quit.
Oh, you bastard.
Yeah. I am
Got a lot of things going on here.
retired professor
There
from
you go.
Drexel University. I left that job in 2021, essentially because it was starting to weigh on me that like the book was maybe at the, you know, the 40-yard line at that point, and I
No,
was
I
like,
get it.
this is never going to get done unless I just really just focus 100% on it.
John,
So,
it's a gutsy move, though, because as a musician, you know how unstable the business can be, especially during the pandemic. And you were doing a lot of things online, like a lot of musicians were doing during the pandemic, which is great.
mhm.
But to walk away from, let's say, a stable job in a university to finish the book, that says a lot. It's like you had enough faith that it's like, I believe in this book. I'm going to finish it, and we're going to go forward from there.
Yeah, well, it was a bit of a leap of faith, but to be fair, I was there for 16 years, and sometimes you got to know when to leave the party, also.
True.
And not that I was hating the job in any way when I left, but I could foresee possibly coming to hate the job.
Fair enough.
I didn't want that to happen because
Right.
it had meant too much to me to have the opportunity in the first place. And you know, as I was writing about embracing change,
Yeah.
a light bulb moment is like, well, maybe you should embrace like changing from that situation too.
Look, anybody who knows you is proud of you for doing that, and taking, like you said, it's a major leap of faith, and now the proof is in the pudding. And I hope this becomes a bestseller. It deserves it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You got it, my friend. John Faye is here on the A Game. I'm going to do my random shot segment, but I want to do one thing because last time I interviewed John, it was with his band, the Caulfields, so I didn't get a chance to do this. And since we did mention him earlier, the man who produced the video Orbit, I got the video. I like to fire it up and then lead us into random shots, if you don't mind, because that's like your most it's your most recent. You did this about a year ago. Brilliantly done. Still going to do the music thing. I know you will always be involved in the music.
Oh yeah. I've got a new record already in the works, but it's just going to be about the timing.
Absolutely. But if you missed this, I'm telling you right now, find this, download it. You're going to enjoy it. This is Power Pop of John Faye. The song is called Orbit. Christian, get ready to hit that. Let's fire it up here on the A Game. Check it out.
Million miles from home, it's been a light I've been gone. My ears ring on and on, but I can still hear ground control to Major Tom singing.
That's one thing about John. He's got the best facial reactions you're ever going to find. As proof by the commercials and the video you just saw.
I'll make dumb videos with John.
Oh, you know, crack open the mic, Christian, if you want to talk.
I don't have a mic, but I just want to say I want to make dumb videos.
Oh, you want to make some videos?
I want to make dumb videos with John.
I should explain, my engineer, Christian Court, is a very talented musician in his own right, coming from the spawn of PM Dawn, Prince B. I mean, you know, he wants to make videos with you now. I mean, I can see why.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. I got lots of ideas.
By the way, wherever you get your music, download it, make it a part of your collection. It's a great song, and I had to do it. Like John has a problem with that.
No, I mean, I haven't seen it in a while. It was fun to watch that. I've been hanging out with my friend Ange Boca, who plays the mime girl.
Yes.
And we were sort of reminiscing about that shoot the other day, and she's like, I ate so many goddamn black and white cookies in that shoot. But, hey.
Exactly. Just having fun running around Philadelphia and doing that.
Right. Running around Philadelphia eating cookies. I can't think of a better...
Not a bad way to spend
better Tuesday afternoon, you know?
Exactly. John Faye here on the A Game. We are now up to the random shot segment. John's been through this before, but basically these are questions based on knowing what I know about John, some of his background. And yes, I'm going distinctively Delaware on a couple of these questions. So,
Ooh, yeah.
look, you grew up in Newark. I got to do it. And by the way, it's Newark. I know growing up in Jersey, that was the first thing I had to learn when I got down to WSTW. Right. Like, Rob, it's Newark. I know you're a Jersey guy. It's not Newark. Right. I'm like going, I get it. No problem. I was more concerned about saying Hockessin than anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
With that being said, all right. In your opinion, what is more surprising, that Firefly continues to be the staple that it is, that it hasn't moved away from Dover, or nobody has ever tried to recapture Kahunaville again on the waterfront?
You know, a reboot of Kahunaville would be highly entertaining to me personally,
Would be me too.
because it was just such a, you know, it was a ridiculous place. Let me just put it that way. You know, if you like a good open air meat market,
That's kind of what it was.
that's
It was-
absolutely what it was.
Yeah.
It had no redeeming value whatsoever, except for the fact that STW put pretty good shows on there, and we got to be part of them.
Right.
Actually, there's a little scene in the book where we talk about the one where we were playing on the barge. I don't know if you were at the station during that era.
I wasn't. I mean, they'd moved it. I should explain that Kahunaville is right on the waterfront in Wilmington at that point. They had a stage on the water in a barge. And
Yeah,
then
in a
they eventually,
barge.
And then
Like,
they eventually,
literally the most impersonal way to play to an audience. Like you're literally like half a football field away from the closest person. But it was, you know, it was hilarious. But I would love to see a reboot of Kahunaville.
growing up in Delaware, you know about these two places. But if you're a hot dog fan, is it the Doghouse or is it Deerhead Hot Dogs?
I got to be honest with you. I made my own hot dogs at home. I never went out
Well,
for hot
see,
dogs.
I learned
know,
something. I did not know.
You know, so I was an Oscar Mayer kid.
That was the first thing I remember, like coming down and working there, and you're finding out about both. Why is there a hot dog war here? I'm like, we had that in Jersey.
Yeah, you know, I'm blissfully oblivious to the hot dog war. I didn't even know there was like a war about it. But you know.
I think there's varying opinions on it. It's like either you
No,
love
I get it. It's like the Pats and Ginos of
Philadelphia when it comes
Yeah.
to cheesesteak. Absolutely. Which is more Delaware in your mind? Dogfish Beer or Frightland?
At this point, it's Dogfish.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you grew up in Delaware, and
I have a fond feeling about Frightland, though.
if you grew up in
I
Delaware,
don't drink beer, so you know,
it's tough. Yeah.
yeah. But I have very fond memories of playing at Dogfish Head in Rehoboth.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
But you know, after a certain point, I think I was banned because I was too loud as an acoustic solo artist.
How can you be too loud in acoustic? Is that
you know, that's the reason that they give. You know, I don't think I got along with the booking agent very well.
Oh, there you go. By the way, if you're looking for something for cool to do on Halloween, go down to Delaware, go below the canal, as they say. You'll find Frightline. It's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
You are the former professor, as you said, from Drexel University. Now, if you had to sit in on a class, I'm going to give you an option of either sitting in on Greg Graffin of Bad Religion doing paleontology, and he is a professor
over
UCLA, or you sit in a music business class from David Lowery of Cracker at the University of Georgia. Which one are you sitting in on?
Definitely paleontology.
I figured
I love both of them. I'm a big Bad Religion and Cracker fan, but you know, I could stand to never hear anybody talk about the music business again, to be honest with you. Like, it's just, you know, especially in its current form.
That's another podcast for another time.
Yeah, that's another, you know, like, I don't consider myself to be, I mean, I was barely in the music business as a signed artist, I felt, because I was always just like, I felt like I was observing the weirdness.
Right.
From, you know, as the title says, on the cusp of things. But, you know, I was never really like a wholehearted, enthusiastic participant in the music business, you know. But I saw a ton of it. I mean, I could tell you what I observed.
Right. But you kind of had to take control a little bit. I mean, when you formed the band Ike at that point, it was like you kind of grassroots trying to.
Yes. So that's a different way of approaching the music business.
Yes.
I mean, that's actually, like, you know, one of the things that I would like to be a takeaway for the book is that it is actually something where I'm advocating for independent artists. You know, I literally feel like it's a better way of life. And, you know, all my experiences, like having seen the music, you know, industry
Right.
in quotes from several vantage points, you know, one being a guy with a record contract who got a big publishing deal and, you know, actually had money for a year
Right.
before I blew it all. And then to have to start over at the bottom of the mountain
Right.
and redefine what my goals are, redefine what success is
Sure.
to me. Like, and one of the takeaways I would like to people to have from the book is that you do define your own success, and it is in your hands to make that assessment. And you can really find happiness if you embrace that idea instead of, you know, chasing, you know, how many followers do I have?
Right.
You know, like that ain't no way to live, man. I'm sorry. I wholeheartedly reject it.
It's a great message. No matter what, that is a great message. But I'm going to tangent by one thing.
Sure.
Knowing what you know and knowing how the business is in 2023, do you think there is a distinct advantage just being without a label and doing it by yourself? Because you know you can get more money per unit and more of this and more of that just by kind of grassrooting it. And basically, what a label will provide certain things. We won't deny that.
Sure.
But again, having maybe a little more control of your destiny by doing it more independently and knowing that the playing field sort of lends itself more to songs than albums. It's more about downloads and stuff of that ilk. It's more about what are the hits on you and whatever it creates. Does it lend itself more to the advantage more than ever to an independent artist?
I mean, it's a great time to be an independent artist. I would agree with that. But again, you know, the whether the playing field is leveled or not, you still have to be doing it for the right reasons.
Amen.
You know, and obviously there's way more independent artists out there because it's so easy to make your own music, record at home. You know, the cost of you know, the price of admission is almost nothing now. So, you know, then the challenge is like you're just sort of fighting to be, you know, rise above like the huge glut of content that exists.
Right.
So, you know, and I think every artist has to decide for themselves like what their true goals are. And you know, I don't like look down on anybody who like literally says like, I want to be, you know, as big as Lady Gaga or whatever.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you go for it, you know, but you know, the thing that's frustrating about labels and has always been frustrating about labels is that, you know, they swoop in when they see that you've already done like 95% of the work.
True.
So what I will say that like today in the way things are, I think there's more of a chance of an artist being able to like get to that tipping point without a label and then, you know, really have a more leverage in negotiating the terms maybe once they get to that point, because they'll be like, well, I got 1 million people already into what I do. So what do you bring into the table? Instead of like, oh, the label is the savior and, you know, the white knight coming in to, you know, make everything good. And, you know, I mean, back when the Caulfields were, you know, there's a whole chapter in the book about how green we were and how ignorant we were of like just the broader music industry and how, you know, when you're green, you know, a lot of things that seem like very appealing on the surface, there's another level to it. So it really depends on like what you're trying to do. Right. You know, like every musician I know who falls into this category of, you know, like middle-class music lifer, you know, somebody who's doing it because they don't feel like they have any choice other than to be that person. You know, they have to do it. They're compelled to do it.
Right.
We all have our own individual sort of ways of surviving. You know, everybody's got their side hustle. Everybody's, you know, whether you're teaching or producing other artists or doing something that has nothing to do with music to make your money.
Right.
You know, everybody is trying to figure out their own way of doing it. And, and that just speaks to like how passionate you have to be to make it work, to make ends meet,
One more question. I should go out on that note because that was brilliant. But
ruin it all right now, Rob.
Right now, only because I'm such a fan of your lyrics, I gotta pose this question. I would like to quote "Where Are They Now?" because it's still one of the best lines in my opinion. It makes me wonder if Darwinism is just another load of intellectual jism. First off, Darwinism and a load of jism in the same lyric is brilliant. Sorry, always has been, always will.
Always trying to sneak the word jizz into
come on, as a songwriter.
So
what is, I was about to ask the question, what is one line that you didn't write that you kind of say, man, I wish I'd written that line in a song or something?
Oh my God.
Too many, huh?
That's kind of a tough one, man.
That's fair. But what you were about to say.
Well, I will say that like a song that immediately comes to mind that might be so Elvis Costello, it's no secret that he's probably like in my top 3 favorite songwriters of all time.
Can't go wrong with him. Absolutely.
And one of my favorite songs of his is the opening track off of Imperial Bedroom called Beyond Belief. And it's the first few lines are like, history repeats the old conceits, the glib replies, the same defeats. And when I heard that set of lines come out of my speakers as a teenager, I was like, oh man.
That's like, almost like a defining moment.
That's a wordsmith. But he had other other lines in his songs, like even something like Allison, which is a much more sweet, romantic, mainstream kind of like a hit song.
Yeah.
Just a line like, I know this world is killing you. Like that. That's something that I had to learn as a songwriter, is that it's not just all about cleverness. It's about like a line that's so resonant in its truthfulness, right, that, when you kind of combine it with lines that are also clever, then it becomes like this whole different level of effectiveness, or just like it hits somebody a lot harder. Because there's another line in Allison that is obviously very more on the clever side. It's like, I don't know if you've been loving somebody, I only know it isn't mine.
Right.
And that's just brilliant also.
Great stuff, my friend. Let's wrap it up here. Once again, let's get photo number 3 up here just to put the book out there one more time. Put it in your back of your mind. You can order it right now. It came available this week. It is out on Amazon. It's out on Barnes & Noble. It's out on Target. And again, if you're enjoying the book, please give it a great review. The Yin and the Yang of It All. John Kim Faye is the author and a very talented man in so many different levels. And proud to say a friend of mine for almost 30 years.
Rob, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'll find another reason to have you on just because.
Yeah, any excuse. No, this is really, really fun. It's great to catch up with you, and thank you so much.
Thank you for doing it. And best of luck. I know you're going out on a book tour, and you got a special performance in the Delaware area for a lot of your friends, sort of a part book, part performance, real quick.
Oh, yeah. On April 25th, I'm doing the official book release event at Ardmore Music Hall in Ardmore, PA.
Very good.
And it is, it's the first time I'm actually trying this. It's a songs and stories format. I have 13 different musicians playing the show with me. So all of the Caulfields will be there. We actually have like an 8-person augmented lineup of that band.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be performing. And in addition to that, I have like a whole separate band to do like the non-Caulfields songs.
Right.
So it'll be kind of like a rotating cast throughout the night. But like the stories are going to be told over kind of like these improvised music beds.
Nice.
It's going to be pretty wild. Yeah. Like kind of like, no net in a lot of ways.
Can they go to your website to get more information?
Yeah, johnfay.com. It's all up there.
Check it out. John, best of luck with the book. I hope to see more success from this. Again, it's the yin and the yang of it all. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Rob. Great.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap for this week on the A Game. We'll come back next week. Thanks again. For John Faye, I'm Rob Acampora. Enjoy your weekend. Happy holidays to you.